Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today it's December 19th, and we are going to take an updated look at what the weather models have to say for the battleground here across Western Washington. We are coming up on the event. We still have huge model disagreement on what is going to transpire here across Western Washington. Looking here at the windy map, you can see the southerly winds coming up, meeting with these easterlies, marking that warm front here of the system out over the Pacific Ocean here. It's going to move towards the Washington coast tonight and on into tomorrow morning here. Marginally cold air in place here. May start out as snow initially, but then some southerly winds could be working on this air mass across the central Puget Sound, change it over to rain according to some models here, and then bring some snowfall behind it. But not all models are in agreement here. So taking a look here, you can see the very cold air, of course, across British Columbia flowing out through the Fraser River Gap. The further north you go, the colder the air here. Eastern Washington, Oregon, very cold. Idaho, Montana, big winter storms incoming. And we have wind chill advisories all over the place. Eastern Washington on in through Idaho and Montana. Now, let's go ahead and jump into things here on the satellite imagery. You can see our system out here. It doesn't look like much on the satellite imagery here, and that's what we want if you're in the Seattle area. You do not want this thing flexing its muscle out here and trending a little bit further north. That would warm us up even more across the central Puget Sound here. Right now, it looks to be on track and make landfall right on the Washington coastline here, but there is model disagreement, as you will see here, and I'll show you here shortly. But look at this very cold air over the interior of British Columbia and the Yukon. Some of these areas below negative 40 Fahrenheit and Celsius across the region here. Big snowfalls coming for southwest BC, Vancouver Island, northwest Washington interior on through tomorrow as well. Now taking a look here at the NAM 3KM. If you take a close look here, look at these southerly winds move up the Puget Sound here, and that's going to warm us up for a portion of tomorrow morning, but then potentially the north winds will crash back down on the back side of that and create some interesting convergence zones, potential snowfall, if you believe the NAM 3KM here. We look at the HRRR here, and it shows something similar. Some pretty good southerly winds ripping up the Puget Sound here, and then the northerly winds shift back down as we go into the early afternoon, according to the HRRR high-resolution model there. Those models are both known to kind of overdo the extent of some of these southerly winds and the scouring of a cold air mass here, so we'll take that into account. And we'll look at the snowfall here according to the NAM 3KM. Initially, not much across the Seattle metro here as we go on in through Tuesday morning here. Bigger snowfall amounts further north you go by this point. But when the cold air starts back down across the Puget Sound here, you can see some convergence zone activity setting up across SeaTac. By the time you get into Tuesday night, you've got over 2 inches potentially at SeaTac, Kitsap Peninsula, up towards Everett. This could be still some disruptive snowfall across the area, and goes without saying, really, big snow is coming for the Cascades as well. Now looking at the European, it shows those southerly winds ripping up the Puget Sound as well Tuesday morning, but then the crash comes. As you can see, this northerly winds going to be a battleground here between the north and south wind coming across the area. Some potential snowfall could occur when these north winds come back down across the Puget Sound. We'll check out what the GFS and the ICON and the Canadian model have to say about that here coming up as well, because there's still big model disagreement on the timing and the placement of these southerly winds. So stay with me here. Now looking at the European, not much snow initially, and really not too much for Seattle south, but you can see north of Seattle could get 2-3 inches of snowfall, more out towards Highway 101, and of course the big amounts up for the northwest interior, Vancouver Island, southwest BC, and the Cascades, of course. Now looking at the GFS. The GFS says hold your horses here for a second. You can see the southerlies come up towards SeaTac here and then meet up with the northerlies here late Tuesday morning. You could get a nice battleground here, and some big snowfalls would occur in such a scenario across the Puget Sound, the central Puget Sound here. Now, let's take a look at what the GFS is calling for. This is hot off the presses here, so I have not looked at this yet. Let's go ahead and update it, make sure we have all the recent information here. Put this into motion, and here we go on to tonight and tomorrow morning. Look at this. Oh, wow. I mean, that's just kind of ridiculous. I don't know if I believe this, but it kind of highlights the potential we have here if things line up just perfectly across the central Puget Sound. A little bit of rain shadowing going on across some of the Whidbey Island area shown here, but still plenty of snowfall across the central Puget Sound all the way up towards southwest BC. There, sharp snow cutoff line around just south of Tacoma showing up there just north of Olympia. So do you believe the GFS or not? That's the question. And some really heavy snowfall amounts across the Cascades. Again, pointing that out. So anyway, what are we looking at here? The ICON. Let's take a look. This is the German model. Let's take a look at what it brings. Southerly winds make it just about to SeaTac there by the time we get to Tuesday morning. North winds quickly fill back in behind that. So that looks pretty favorable for some snowfall across the central Puget Sound as well. And again, probably a pretty dramatic snow line here somewhere around Tacoma or north of Olympia, according to the Icon model shown there. And let's take a look at what it calls for snowfall-wise. This is hot off the presses, the 0Z run here. Put this into motion, and you can see the snow kind of pile up as we go through Tuesday morning a bit here across Seattle, up towards Everett, getting some decent amounts. Kitsap Peninsula, not too bad there. And as you go up towards Camano Island, up towards Bellingham, and again, east portion of Vancouver Island, Victoria would get good snow out of this scenario as well, but not too bad here. You can see the cutoff there just kind of south of SeaTac. They're right on Federal Way towards Tacoma. And again, I like to say it, big snowfalls across the Cascades there. Now here's the RGEM here, 10-kilometer look at things. Now, check out these southerly winds coming up through the Puget Sound there, but then quickly met by these northerlies. We go through Tuesday morning here, so that's probably going to be favorable for some snowfall as well. Check out that snowfall map coming up. This is hot off the presses as well, the 0Z run. Kick that on into the future there, and you can see these northerly winds start to kick some cold air down across the region here, which we'll look at the end of the video here as well, what's coming up later this week. But now looking at that, so we saw how quickly those southerlies were met up with northerlies as we go through Tuesday morning here. You can see the snow start to pile up across some of the central Puget Sound here up towards Everett. Big snowfall amounts as we go through about noon Tuesday here and early afternoon. You can see the rapid cutoff line somewhere between SeaTac and Tacoma here, Kitsap Peninsula, Everett. Really, pretty nice dramatic snowfall here across much of the Puget Sound, Central Sound North shown there. And you can see these snowfall totals. If I've been showing them, I haven't been talking about it, but you can see Northeast Oregon going to get targeted here, Spokane, Pullman, Idaho Panhandle, Montana, big winter storm activity coming up here. And this is off for Stevens Pass through Wednesday morning here. And you can see that Spokane, another good snowfall, Pullman, Idaho, Montana. Lookout Pass with another foot potentially coming up here. Sorry about the rain snow shadow there. I don't make the weather. I just report it here, folks. Now taking a look here, Missoula, Montana, it's going to get wild out there. You can see some of the huge gaudy snowfall totals out here across the region. So heads up if you're traveling out of Washington or Oregon, I-90 or down through Idaho and the higher terrain especially. Just crazy winter weather out there. Areas of blowing snow, really dramatic wind chills, and very cool temperatures. Now, I wanted to show this too, what's coming up later this week. If we look at this, you can imagine this as a timeline running. You can see the days down here and the dates and times. So if you take a slice of this and you grab a three-dimensional picture of the atmosphere, this would kind of be in the fourth dimension, the timeline here. So you take a slice here of Portland, say 18Z Friday morning, about 11 a.m., and you can see you're warmer up here at about, 2,000-3,000 feet than you are at the surface. So it's going to be rain up here falling through the subfreezing layer, and that's that potential freezing rain event we're looking at for Portland here. This rain falling into the subfreezing air mass all the way into Saturday morning here. So we'll be watching that potential. We still have several days to watch that as we go. This is for Eugene. You can see that subfreezing layer at the surface there, and you can imagine that warmer air coming in off the Pacific here, dropping that rain through that air mass and creating that freezing rain at the surface shown there. This is for Seattle, Tacoma. Kind of that scenario going on here. We have that low-level air mass trapped here as we go on in through Friday, late morning, afternoon. We could get some freezing rain even through the Puget Sound there. It kind of highlights that impact potentially there. Now, yeah, so we're just going to kind of be playing, look at the satellite imagery, check out the actual pressure gradients across western Washington from Bellingham down to Portland, the Washington and Oregon coast, and Seattle. We compare them. We kind of match that against what models have been showing the big snowfall amounts versus like the European and the HUR and the NAM who don't show as much snowfall across the area. And we kind of try to pick out which model is doing best. So here is some of that activity going on here. So if you look at Astoria in Seattle, Astoria is actually lower pressure than Seattle right now. So the wind will tend to flow from Seattle out to Astoria right now. But you'll notice that gradient relaxed a little bit here and actually dropped a little bit here. So we're still offshore, but that gradient is starting to relax a bit. You look at Portland to Bellingham. Portland has lower pressure, so you're going to kind of be bringing a north wind from Bellingham towards the Portland area. So if you kind of get the idea here, what we're looking at with these offshore gradients. If you look out towards North Bend on the Oregon coast, you can see Seattle's still higher pressure there, so you're going to be general trend to offshore wind by that too, but it is relaxing a little bit there if you look closely here. So it depends on how strong that comes in and just how much these northerly winds meet up with the southerlies across the Puget Sound, really. I mean, so we're going to be dealing with this battleground right across the central Puget Sound here. Probably some southerlies coming up across the Seattle, at least for a brief period here, then changing back to northerly. How will any convergent zones line up behind that? Or will the battleground just kind of set up across the region here and we'll get a nice deformation band across the Puget Sound and some heavy snowfall? Still yet to be seen. As you saw in the models, big dramatic differences showing up here. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If it starts to snow tonight and I'm still up, I'll probably do a live stream where we can do some Q&A, and I'll try to point my camera out the window and we can watch it snow or whatnot, and you can tell me what you're seeing. If not, I will wake up early and do my standard briefing tomorrow morning. We'll check out all the models again, and we'll try to pick which model has been performing the best and what kind of snowfall potential we're looking at tomorrow. And again, we're going to turn cold pretty much across the entire region as we go through this week. There's a freezing rain and more snow fall is possible as we go through this week as well. So still lots to look at, folks. Thanks for stopping by. You know, we have the best weather community probably in the world here across the Pacific Northwest. I'm glad all of you leaving comments on there. I don't get to respond to all of them, but I do read all of them. So anyway, rambling on a little bit here. I will go ahead and maybe do a live stream tonight. And if not, I will do another briefing tomorrow morning, and cross your fingers for snow lovers. And if you don't like the snow, then yeah, then you might get your way also there too. But anyway, yeah, I'll talk to you guys either tonight or tomorrow morning. So have a good night.